Okay, so sequencer mode is off, and one thing. So that, yeah, now I'm just gonna run my sequence again. I'm gonna press play, and I'm gonna just make some general noise first, so you can get an idea of the where this thing can take you, because it can definitely take you places. And if you're under the influence of Truly Happy Chemicals or Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, or something of a similar effect, which I would highly recommend consuming some of those and then jumping on your JP-08 to see where it takes you, and maybe you can do some alien communication or something. So I'm gonna hit play. It's just a basic sequence, just something to make sound with, and it's the filter section. So the first thing that I'm going to mention is the filter sounds alright, but the problem is these knobs, right? These faders are ridiculously short. And just for comparison, I'm going to show you the System 1M here, just so you could look at the fader throw. So you have this is kind of like almost like if you had like a DJ mixer, like a Vestax. You're like switching between 1 and 2, and like do some crazy stuff. And a lot of like the old synths, like the Juno 60, they're more or less like this length, maybe even a little longer. So it's easier to find the sweet spot on those. With these, you sort of have to be a little bit more subtle, and it produces a pleasant sound, but it's just really goddamn frustrating. I actually bought this module twice. I bought it the week it came out, and then these faders, they really frustrated me, and I took it back, and I thought about it, but luckily I'd gone on some really interesting musical treks that when I hopped on my Sub 37 or my Dave Smith Tetra, which are awesome in their own right, I just found that it didn't take me to the places where this could take me. So you're gonna have to live with really small faders and being very subtle with them. And if you have fat fingers like me, yeah, it's gonna be something we're gonna have to live with. I'll come back to the filter section, only because I want to sort of go through each little subsection here on the panel and demonstrate how they come into play. So I'm going to start with the LFO here on the top, and notice how I'm moving it, nothing's happening. That could be either because one or two things. Number one, this is something I've noticed a lot on the Era stuff, is that when you move like a fader, and this is like true for the System 1 and the 1M, a lot of times it won't do anything, or it won't do much. Like you'll move, especially on the System 1, you'll move like a knob, for example, all the way, and it won't do anything. So these things are clearly, and it's a pet peeve. I mean, I feel that if the knobs aren't going to do anything, they should just not light up or anything, like as an indicator, like, hey, this doesn't do anything right now. Like if you load a plug out module on any of the System 1 series, stuff that doesn't do anything is just not going to light up, and that's key. I think saves you a lot of headaches. Now it could be that it's a DSP bug, or just Roland half-assed it, and frankly I wouldn't be surprised. Or the second reason why these things aren't doing anything is because maybe we haven't sent any triggers to the LFO. So I'm gonna mess around with these because I see LFO written on here on the filter section. And now, oh, okay, I see there's something. And sometimes when you load a patch, even though like what you see on the screen, there we go, what you see on the screen is not, or what you see on the panel isn't what is on the reflected on the patch itself. So you have to move it around to to get like the settings. These aren't motorized or anything, and so when you switch the patch, it's not gonna default to the patch setting. So now the LFO is working. So it's probably something having to do with either the VCO, something in the VCO mod section, or the VCF section right here. But so is the VCO mod. Okay. And now, you could see just by messing around with the filters and LFOs of what the hell was able to happen here. Get like a very percussive, almost like bass drum sound. So you can make your bass drums, bass drum samples, or not. I mean, I frankly wouldn't use these for a bass drum sample, but I'm sure if you're persistent enough, you can get to a bass drum. I like more far out things. So it's kind of like our original patch. Well, let's add a little bit of pizzazz to it. You can also change the waveform on the LFO. It has sine, triangle, saw, a pulse wave, and random, and then noise, which is, it's nice that they included that. Now, proceeding along to the VCO mod section, we have, as used earlier, the LFO mod, and then envelope modulation. And then this section right here, which I find pretty useful, is that you're able to route the VCO mod to VCO1, VCO2, or both. And this right here, it's kind of hard to see, but this is where you see kind of like VCO and VCO2 mentioned and a couple arrows. It's actually a 3-pole switch. So at the top, if you saw all the way to the top, it's just VCO1, and in the middle, VCO1 and 2, and the bottom, VCO2, and those will have different effects, right? If you have it, let's say VCO1 and 2, and you are tweaking the envelope mod or the LFO mod, they're gonna sound different, slightly different, or depending on on your VCO and settings too. So right next to it we have a pulse width. This is just the pulse width. That sounds kind of nice. And the pulse width too can be triggered. Well, actually, it can be tied to either the LFO we could have it manual. It's a 3-pole switch again, or we could have it tied to envelope 1. This guy right here, and I love the fact that we have 2 envelopes. So I like mine with fast tags. Faster, I would say. So yeah, notice how you're able to go to interesting places. Now this is my favorite fader on the whole panel. This cross mod. I don't know what it is, but this was actually the first time I discovered cross mod. Was on the JP-08, and let me tell you, even though it's on the system 1, I didn't use it so much, but I think the cross mod really shines here, and I bet it did on the Jupiter 8. VCO 1 and 2 coming up next.